Right. Okay. So I'm just going to get started because there's a cutscene at the beginning. So I'll talk about the game as we go. Can I get a countdown?
Yes. 3, 2, 1, go!
Woo! Yeah, so this is obviously the most skill-based game of the entire marathon, Professor Layton and the Curious Village. So the basic premise of the game is that we get a letter and it talks about the mystery of the golden apple in a village. We have to go and investigate it. It's not too complicated. It's the first game, so it doesn't make things too massively difficult. We play on what is called the Japanese friendly version, so that you have friendly and non-friendly. So friendly is slightly quicker, and they all have different puzzles and stuff, so they all change between different regions, so all the routes are different. But we just start off here with a load of text that just explains the story. Just gonna quickly match through this. Yeah, they're just talking about this letter they've got, and they get a hidden map, and it tells them where they're meant to go. Not too interesting at the moment. We get into the puzzles a bit later on. You get some wonderful Japanese voice acting. There we go, and then we're on to the first puzzle. So we're just going to circle this village and select. So obviously the point of this game is that you have puzzles all across, and everyone just keeps asking you different puzzles. You need 75 to get into the final area. So obviously we put in the quickest ones. Explain a bit about that later on, because there's some interesting routing behind that. But so now we're going to go into another cutscene. The beginning of this game's a bit slow, so just sort of have to wait for a bit. Get to watch them look at the village. There's a scary tower, which obviously is very important, but not going to ruin the surprise. Yeah, so obviously because it's in Japanese, I can't actually read any of this, so obviously I've just sort of learnt what the answers are. I do also have the route up, just in case I forget some of the answers, because some of them are a bit strange, and some of them just make no sense, so I'm just going to make sure we get it all right. So now we're on to the second puzzle, which is the crank puzzle, and it's 1. It's not really much to talk about in terms of the puzzle answers, they're all pretty quick. You know, it's a great game. Like if you're looking for a speed game and you want like quite a easy, straightforward speed game, then Professor Layton's actually quite a decent game. And now we go into another cutscene. Yeah, at the beginning of the game is a lot of different cutscenes and storytelling and stuff, and then we get into the actual doing puzzles part of it. And I'll try to explain as many puzzles as I can, but some of them are literally just in the Japanese version, and I haven't translated them, so I don't actually know what they're asking. Obviously, I know this game really well, so I'm gonna have a load of tutorials here as well. So it's just telling us how to move around, and now we're gonna find out about hint coins. And so on each puzzle, you can spend 4 hint coins, and you get a hint for each coin you spend. Obviously, we won't be spending any. Hopefully, shouldn't be. I mean, I know all the answers, sort of. Now we're learning about the inventory, all the different stuff. We're never going to go into the inventory or use any hint coins or anything, so this is all just basically just sort of casual stuff. And we're at the end of the prologue. So now we're going to talk to Percy. And the thing with this game is everyone in the town just throws puzzles at you for no reason. So they'll just be like, hey, how are you? Here's a puzzle. It's just like, great. So we're just going to circle that house. Sometimes you'll go up to them and say like, hi, do you know anything about what I'm trying to find? And they'll go, no, but I saw a cat this morning and that reminded me of a puzzle. And you're just like, okay. So we're just going to keep going through here. By the way, the puzzle we just did was a direction puzzle, so it's basically like I left my house, went right and right, and then I was facing east. And then this one is how many different numbers appear between 2 certain times. I can't remember what the times are, but the answer is 34. Just gonna keep going, and then the next puzzle we have coming up is the only bit of RNG in the entire run. So we're gonna hopefully get decent luck. So this guy is just blocking our way, and obviously we can't just walk around him because that would be too easy. So we're gonna talk to him. And he will give us a puzzle with a load of weights, and we have to try and work out which one is the lighter weight. So all of them are the same weight except for one. So I'm gonna chuck 3 on each side. Ooh, that was not right. Let's just guess. Okay, I marked that up. Hopefully I guessed okay. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, so it's completely random each time which weight it is. It's based on when you start up the game, so it's like, unless you played frame perfectly from the beginning of the game, you're never gonna be able to get it right. And we're just introducing ourselves to all the different characters in the world. And this is Ramon, and he is the guy who runs the boat around the village, and you don't ever use the boat, and I don't think anyone ever uses the boat, so his job's pretty pointless. But it's fine. So we're now going to do a wolf and chicken puzzle, and if there's more wolves than chickens on one side, the wolves will eat the chickens. So you have to be really careful with doing this right, and it should take a minimum of 11 moves, like that. So a lot of this game is just sort of trying to make sure that you do everything as optimally as possible. And now we get to actually head into the main area of the game. So we get to go to the manor, which is where all the important characters in the village live. We get a nice little cutscene of them showing us how big the house is. Look at that, it's huge. So now we can go in after we get the finished chapter 1 cutscene. So there's 9 chapters in the game. A lot of them are quite short. There's a few that are a lot longer, but it's not too bad. Like it's not like any chapter which is ridiculously long. They all have different themes of them and everything. And now we get to do our first matchstick puzzle. So this puzzle is a dog gets hit by a car, and you have to show what it looks like afterwards. So it's all nice and happy. Obviously, we're doing well so far. And that was just basically him saying, are you good enough to come and solve this riddle? Yes, you are, so you can come and investigate the mystery of the golden apple. Now we're going to do some more random puzzles. I think there's about 16 puzzles that you have to do, so you just have to try and pick up the rest along the way. And that will be a lot easier later on when we open up another area. But now we're going to go upstairs and meet the actual people who were related to the guy. So the story is he died and he left a giant fortune that we're here to investigate, which is the golden apple. And this is basically his wife. And that's Simon. Simon's very important. Let's all remember Simon. And I can't tell you what they're saying at all. But there was an earthquake and the cats run away, which is obviously distressing because cats can't ever leave. So now we have to go and find the cat. Yeah, so trying to remember the names of all the characters. This is Dahlia, and she's basically just really moody all the time. She's not a very nice person, but we need to talk to her a lot, so. And we get to start chapter 2, which is finding the cat. But first of all, before we're allowed to leave this room, we have to talk to Simon. It won't let us leave unless we talk to him. And he gives us a nice puzzle to do. So we're going to do this puzzle. And then we have one more puzzle to do in this room just to make sure we have enough puzzles to start the run, and then we're going to go and find the cat. So this game also has secret puzzles, so you have like the main 100 puzzles, but you can also find hidden ones in certain areas. So this is one of the first hidden ones we do. And this is another matchstick puzzle. Not too many puzzles at the beginning of the game. Like we get, so the most of our puzzle solving happens sort of in the middle, near the end. So it's, and they're all quite easy at the beginning, so it's not really too hard a run. Now we get into, so this is the Baron. He died, and this is someone else who we don't get told who it is, and we'll find out later who it is. Won't ruin the surprise. This game hasn't been out for too long, like 10 years. So now we get to, well, here's the cat. Perfect, that was easy. Oh, it ran away. So basically this chapter is just, you find the cat like 4 times in a row and it just keeps running away. And then this is obviously the evil guy because he has a mustache and pointy hair. And we'll see more of him later. We'll keep going down here. And then we talk to the guy who runs the drawbridge again, and someone has stolen the crank that works the drawbridge, so now we're stuck. It's a shame because I really wanted to leave, but now we can't. And here's the cat again. There's not too much that happens at the beginning, it's just sort of filler storyline. The main storyline stuff happens at the end. Just gonna keep going. Oh, got an extra hint coin there. We'll need that for later, obviously. So now we're gonna go and try and get a room at the hotel. So, sort of this beginning bit is also giving us lots of different minigame items that we can collect throughout the game. And so on the inventory menu, you can do different, sort of like different challenges. And different puzzles give you different items for the challenges, but we're not going to do any of those because we don't need to. And now we're going to try and make this old man look beautiful. See, he looks lovely. So that puzzle is basically just he hid his wife in the picture and you have to find it. I should probably talk about the route of it, I think. Should probably do that. So when I first started running this game, there was a route that someone had made, and it felt a bit slow. It was relatively quick, but there were a few puzzles which were a bit out of the way and probably shouldn't have been done. So I went through and I actually timed every single puzzle that you can optionally do. So you have to time it both outside, and there's a different area later on which you can also do puzzles in. So I timed all. It took about 3 days to time all the puzzles. It's very fun, just doing the same answers again and again and again. But no, so I came up with a new route, and it saves about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. So it's quite a big route change. There's a few puzzles in this game that are quicker and aren't in any of the other games. And so that was Agnes, and she gave us the fishbone so that we can go and get the cat, because that's the only way we can catch the cat. So now we're going to finally be able to go and grab the cat and then advance the story plot. I mean, if we have any donations or anything, now would be a good time to read them out, because there's just lots of mashing at the moment.
I would absolutely love to read out some donations, but there currently aren't any. But nonetheless, it's possibly a good time to say that we are indeed, as you say, speedrunning for a good cause. We're looking to raise money for the Dutch Cancer Society. So if you do have some spare money lying around, or maybe not even spare money, and just, you know, you were going to do something fun this weekend, but right, you could actually stay home to help fight the good fight against cancer. You should totally throw some donations right here at this noble cause.
So now we've finally found the cat. So now we can take it back. I did make a small error there. I clicked on the wrong area of the screen, so I had to do an extra puzzle. But it just means I can cut out one of the puzzles later on in the run, so it's not too big a time loss. It just means I have to try and work out which puzzle's the longest. And then here we get introduced to the main sort of reason that the puzzle routing is a bit complicated. So what we saw just there was Granny Riddleton's house. and you can go there and puzzles just sort of get sent there when they can't be found on the main overworld anymore. So we'll be going there a few times in the run, because it's quicker, because you don't have any of the boring conversation stuff. But now we get to the main plot of the game. So this is Simon's been killed, rather tragically. And Inspector Chemley, I think it's pronounced Chemley, I'm not really sure. It's spelt Chemley. Someone in chat probably knows better than I do how they're all pronounced. But Inspector Chemley is now investigating the murder. And we'll leave him alone to investigate that while we go and carry on looking for the golden apple. And now we get another riddle. So we have to work out where the dots will end up being.
Luke, 私の回答はこれだ。解けたよ、Luke.
Yeah, so we're just going to carry on doing some text here, and then we get to go into the next chapter, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, Professor Layton's... I personally think Professor Layton's quite a decent speed game, because it has a lot of like very tiny time saves and tricks, and a few things that save a bit of time that normally go unnoticed when you're doing a speed run. It's quite hard to point some of them out because some of them are just quite natural, but we'll see what happens. So now we're finding out about other stuff. So we've just found out that Raymond, who is the guy who runs the boat, has gone missing as well. So obviously we're going to assume the worst, so we have to go and find him. Someone must know where he is, so we'll go and ask everyone. Or like just a few people who we have to ask. So a tiny time save here is if you leave the room, you're meant to click on the picture, but if you just leave first, it does the picture cutscene and then just makes you leave the room automatically, so it saves like a loading screen and having to wait for the exclamation mark to appear, so it saves like 2 seconds or so. It's really not a huge time save, but this game's all about these small time saves. So now we're finding out more about the plot. We found out that she has a daughter, but she says she doesn't have a daughter, so it's all very confusing. So we'll ask Matthew what he knows. And he tells us that she does have a daughter, but she's not here anymore. So maybe we'll find out more about that later. And now we get to leave. Well, not really, because there's a cat here now. And the cat has some sunglasses? They're not sunglasses, they're normal glasses. Dunno. So now we go and show them to the inspector, who gets really angry at us for no reason. Not really sure how the inspector got into the village when the drawbridge was up, but we'll find out later maybe. So now we're going to take a slight detour, so we're going to go into this little shop here, because it has 4 very quick puzzles. So the first puzzle is, it goes something like there's 10 candles, 2 get blown out and then a further 1 gets blown out. How many candles are left? And the answer is 3, because 7 have burnt completely, so there's 3 candles left in the room. And then we have the next puzzle, which is the classic sort of, there's a oven, a bath, and a lantern, and you have a match. Which do you like first puzzle? And obviously the answer is the match. So there's 2 more puzzles in this room, so they're all really, really quick. And then this one has an in item, so we'll just get rid of that. And then the next puzzle is, there's a girl who has 1,000 sweets, and she wants to split them across, I think it's like 20 jars, and what's the possibility that she has 50 sweets average in each jar? And obviously it's 100% because it's average. A lot of the puzzles in this game specifically are to do with wordplay, so they sort of try and slip words in that you would otherwise not notice, so you obviously like, oh well, it's obviously like 50% or whatever. And then the final puzzle is, there's an events hall. Which chair is the best chair? It's really random puzzles. There's E because the chairs there on E are stackable compared to all the other chairs, which makes them better somehow. And so now we get to go to the next part of the village, hopefully. So we're going to talk to this guy again here. He gives us some more information about the village in general. Then we're going to find out that there's a guy who's actually blocking our way. So we have to talk to him. And so the other thing with this game is that there's 4 different points where it checks how many puzzles you have. So this is the first one, and you can't get past this guy unless you have 12 puzzles completed. Luckily, we have 19 or 20 now, I think, so it's not too bad. But there's one that checks for 12, one that checks for 30, one that checks for 50, and one that checks for 75. But in the next chapter, we'll do most of our puzzles, so there won't be any problems with that. But now we get to go into the second half of the village. And there's some more puzzles in here that we need to do. So the other thing with this game is you have to talk to characters in a specific order as well. Otherwise they don't say the right text, so you're sort of just wasting time. That was a guy, you're coming at a crossroads, there's a guy, you ask him one question, which village is the right village? So a lot of the puzzles in this first game are sort of your normal, like, well-known riddles. In some of the later games, they get a bit strange with how they tell some of the puzzles. Like, some of them just get a bit ridiculous. But this first game's not too bad. It's definitely my favourite Professor Layton game. So now we're going to go and talk to Zapone, who is this guy here. And we can technically do his puzzle before we go up there, but if we do it now, we sort of combine both his dialogue into one, so it saves a tiny bit of time as well. And this is the last puzzle we'll do in this chapter, so now we're just going to go and advance the story a bit. We're just asking around about if anyone knows anything about the Baron. And they all do, so you just ask different people and they all go, well, I wasn't friends with him, but if you ask this person, they might have been. So you're sort of just going on like a wild goose chase. But now we're being told to go and talk to Crouton, who runs the cafe. And this guy is very angry all the time. And obviously you can tell that because he has a red head. And shakes his fist a lot. Just hurt myself. So he's just telling us that he doesn't know anything about it and he doesn't know anyone else. So that just basically is the end of our walking around trying to work stuff out. And obviously it was the middle of the day, so now it's going to be nighttime, obviously, because that makes sense. And that was just all the puzzles being sent to Granny Riddleton's. There we go, so it's nighttime now, and we get to watch a cutscene. Okay, there's only like a few more cutscenes throughout the game, and then the end of the game's very cutscene heavy. But it just means that once you get to like 10 minutes before the end, you pretty much know that your run's either gonna PB or not. So it's quite nice. So now we're into the next chapter. So we're gonna try and get back into the outside area, but unfortunately we can't, because Gerard is standing there, and Gerard has lost his watch. So we have to go and find Gerard's watch for him, because we don't have enough to do already. So now we're going to go and find it. He thinks he dropped it near the park entrance, so we're going to go and see if we can find it there. But it's not here, so we have to talk to Deke and ask him if he knows where it is. And Deke will also give us a puzzle as well. Because, you know, you can't talk to someone without getting a puzzle. And this one is just making the biggest star you can. So now, Deke basically tells us that he hasn't seen the watch, but he knows that... what's her name? What is her name? The person who runs the inn? I think it's like Dorothy or something. I cannot remember her name for the life of me, but she was walking there earlier and she found a watch. So now I have to go and ask her. Yeah, so like I said earlier, like everything is just sort of, you have to go in the order the game expects you to. You can't just go like straight to someone to ask them for something because the trigger won't have been reached. If someone found a way to like skip triggers in this game, it would be great, but it's quite a solid game from my testing. So now we're going to go and give him the watch. And he does like a, thank you for my watch, here's a puzzle. So now we're going to solve another puzzle. And then we get into the main reason why the puzzles are the way they are. So that puzzle is a, which exit can the thief not take out of the town? So it's quite a, you just have to sort of work out the paths that they can take. Now we're going to go to Granny Riddleton's, which is where we do most of our puzzle solving. So let's go. Obviously, because it's a puzzle house, we have to do a puzzle to get in. And so we get our first sliding puzzle. So we're just going to do this quickly. So sliding puzzles are all fairly easy in this game. There's a few later on in the game that I'm not going to do because they're quite long. They get a bit confusing, but all the ones in the any % route are fairly easy. And now we can go into Granny Riddleton's. And here she is. So we come here twice throughout the run. We come here now, and then we come here at the beginning of Chapter 5 as well, just to get most of our puzzle solving out of the way. And so we're going to do every single puzzle here except for 23 and 24, because they're really long, and also if you do 24 too quickly, it can soft lock your game as well, which is really strange. I don't know why that wasn't found when they tested it, but if you click on some of the stuff too quickly, your game stops working completely. And it has happened to me during a run where I accidentally clicked on the puzzle, went to solve it, and just got stuck. So now we just have a load of puzzles. So if anyone wants to send in a donation to Ved, now is probably the best time to do it. I'll try and explain these puzzles as I go along now. There's not really much else to talk about at this point.
Well, there was a €1 donation from the audio guy saying, meme block hype. Don't let your memes be dreams. And don't let your dreams be memes. Money goes to my name. Money goes to name my new favorite Final Fantasy character. Thank you, audio guy.
So this next puzzle is another matchstick puzzle. So we're gonna move some matchsticks around to pick up the rubbish, but we can only move 2 of them, so you just do that. I mean, a lot of these puzzles are, when I was younger and I played this game, were fairly easy. There were a few that sort of got a bit complicated, but nothing that was too hard, which I think makes it a better speed game compared to the other ones, because it's not, you don't have to memorize some crazy, ridiculous routes or different paths and stuff. So this is a puzzle about, that's not right, a puzzle about neighbours who hate each other, so they don't want to talk to each other ever. You have to try and make a route where they can't bump into each other. And there are technically like some different things you can do in the top right there, but they're all the same time, so it doesn't really matter which one you choose to do. And next we have the pill puzzle. So this is a guy who needs to label some pills. Like I said, there's not really a lot going on at this point in the game. It's just solving puzzle after puzzle after puzzle to try and get the puzzle count up. As you can see, you don't have to do any of the like talking stuff, so it's definitely faster to do it this way. So now we're going to skip 23, 24, go straight to 25. Luckily, where you can place some of the things is quite lenient, so hopefully that works. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, sometimes they're quite lenient, and sometimes they just decide that even though it's perfectly spot on, it doesn't count. So now we have the bickering brothers puzzle. So you have to. There's 6 brothers and they all hate each other. So you have to try and place them around the table in the right order. And it gives you like a list of things. So it's like 4 can't sit next to 3, but can sit next to 2, but can't sit opposite 4. That's not. Yeah, but that's sort of like just the basic premise of that puzzle. And then we have the 5 suspects puzzle, where they all give a different statement. You have to work out how many are telling the truth. And they all say that a different number of people are lying. So of course only one of them could be telling the truth because they're all saying different things. So if 2 of them were telling the truth, it wouldn't work. And then next up we have the first one-line puzzle. So it asks you which of the shapes can only be drawn in one line. And you can either draw them all out, which is what I did when I was younger. You just work out which ones can be drawn in a single line. Or you can do it mathematically, so you can sort of count the number of intersections that have an odd number of meetings. You can do it that way. But I think most people just sort of did the draw on the DS and work out which one it is. And then this puzzle is, there are 3 horses, and you have to work out how long it will take them to get back in line whilst racing, and the answer is a minute. So it gives you like, one does 1 lap a minute, one does 2 laps a minute, one does 3 laps a minute. So obviously after a minute they're all lined up again. Can't remember what the next puzzle is. Also, next puzzle is, there's a mouse which breeds, and like every 3 months it breeds into 3 different mice, and then but it also has a 3-month waiting period before it can have babies. And you buy one. How many are you going to have at the end of like a year? And the answer is 1, because obviously if you have 1 mouse, I don't know if anyone's had any sex ed in school, but obviously 1 mouse can't produce babies. No, someone in chat correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. So then we have a sweets puzzle. So there's 2 kids and they do this whole like, if I gave you 2 of my sweets, you'd have twice as many sweets as me. And then the other one goes, yes, but if I gave you 1 more, you'd have 3 times as many sweets. And you have to work out how many sweets they have. Don't think I've ever heard anyone ever have that sort of conversation, but it works for the puzzle. And then you have another one-line puzzle. There's only 5 puzzles left, I think, in this house, so we should have this out the way soon. Just get to watch lots of them announcing that they've got the puzzles right. There's lots of very over-the-top anime movements. So this puzzle is, the father goes, if I halve my age and then add your age on, you get my age. But it's like, so it's just basically working out how old the dad is. And the answer is double what the son's age is. And then next is one of the puzzles that's only on the Japanese version, so I'm not really sure what it's about, but the answer is D. So I'm going to choose D. I think it's something to do with different prices and what's the cheapest thing to buy and stuff. And hopefully I'm not going too fast, so you guys can actually work out the answers yourselves. Because obviously they're all really easy in Japanese. And next up we have the camera and the case. So you have to work out how much the case costs, which is a very expensive case. I don't really use cameras, so I don't know if that's a normal price for a camera case, but I wouldn't pay 95 for a camera case. And then 2 puzzles left. We have the umbrella puzzle. So there's 3 girls and they all chuck their umbrellas into a basket and then they just blindly and randomly take them out again for no reason. And it's how many, what's the percentage likelihood that only 2 of them get the correct umbrellas? And so the answer is 0, because obviously if 2 of them get it, so does the 3rd one. And then the final puzzle is a stamp puzzle. So we have to try and split the stamps into 7 sections. Just going to do that. Just make sure I get this right. That's not right. There we go. So they just have to be 7 different sized areas that all add up to 100. And we're done with our first Granny Riddleton trip. So it's not anything too exciting. Obviously, if you make a mistake, you lose about 20 seconds. So luckily I didn't make any there. Hopefully I won't make any throughout the run. Probably will. Because this game is very sensitive with where you click. And now we're going to do another secret puzzle. So we get given a row of 6 glasses, and we have to try and make them match. And it's how many glasses you have to pick up. And normally most people would say 2, because you have to swap them. But you can just sort of pour one into the other one, so you only have to pick up 1. And now we get back into like the main story. So now we're going to talk to, I think his name's Crumb. I think his name's Crumb. And he tells us that he won't tell us what we need to know unless we have completed 30 puzzles, which luckily we have already because we just did about 48. I'm not sure how many puzzles we actually have. 45, there we go. So now he tells us to go and talk to Prosciutto, who's going to tell us some more stuff about what we need to know. But we're going to do a secret puzzle first. And this is another Japanese exclusive puzzle, so I'm not really sure why the answer is what it is. But I'm sure someone out there will be able to tell chat what the puzzle means. I think it's something to do with like ordering food or buying food or something. And now we get to talk to Prosciutto, who's basically going to tell us that he has no information for us, except for the fact that he saw someone. But other than that, that's not very helpful, so we're just going to leave again. And we're really tired because we spent the last 30 minutes just doing puzzles non-stop, so now we're going to just... Oh, no, we're not. We found Raymond. So now we're going to try and get him back. So now we just have a few cutscenes in this next bit, which just sort of explains more of the story. So this guy's running away with his dead body, and we're going to try and catch him. Although we don't, we lose him, unfortunately. So hopefully he'll come back later on so we can find him again. Who knows? Yeah, and that's the scary tower. We'll get to go there later, but at the moment we can't get there yet. So now we're going to go back to the scene of the crime and see if there's any evidence that they left behind. So let's go have a look. Look, we found another cog. There's cogs everywhere in this game, so like every time you find someone who's passed out or someone else finds somebody passed out, there's cogs next to them. It's meant to be like foreshadowing for later on. This game sort of doesn't reveal much until right at the end, so most of the sort of like solved mysteries happen in the like last 15-10 minutes. You just sort of get more and more confused as the game goes on. So now we're going to find out that actually we didn't see Raymond get carried away because he's actually here. And he has no memory of what happened, so he says something like, I went to go and pick some flowers. So we're going to try and talk to him later, but we're not allowed to at the moment because he's gone home now. So we get to leave. Now we get to go to bed. It's been a very, very full-on night. So now we're probably about halfway through the game, I'd say. Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. Now we get to wake up in the day. Now we get told that we have to go up to the manor, so we're going to go and head there now. We're going to take a bit of a detour, but we'll head there straight after that. We just got to do some more puzzles first. So next up we have the ring puzzle. So there's 6 rings, and you have to work out which one you have to cut off to make a straight line. And the answer is D. Like I said, if picking up this game is quite easy, you can just sort of use the route and you can just sort of follow along, and it's not a hard game to get into. It's quite a hard game to get a like super optimal time in, but like sub 130 is pretty much free. So now we're going to do some more Granny Riddleton puzzles. I promise after these load of puzzles it gets a bit more interesting. But at the moment we're just trying to get our puzzle count up as quickly as possible. So that puzzle was you have to cut the board so that you can make a rectangle without flipping any of the pieces. And then next up we have one of the Japanese puzzles. So it's like you have to actually write Japanese letters. And this game can be a bit funny with trying to read them. So hopefully this works first try. That should be okay.
Luke, 私の回答はこれだ。
Yeah, there we go, that's fine. Yeah, so sometimes it will
当然
just...
さ、英国紳士としてはね。
The only issue with... Well, not the only issue, but one of the main issues with speedrunning this game is that sometimes the... When it reads the letters and numbers you write, it just reads completely randomly. So you have to be quite careful with how quickly you answer questions.
これでどうですか
So that puzzle was if 5 cats can catch 5 mice in 5 minutes,
先生の弟子ですか
how
ら
many
ね
cats does it take to catch 100 mice in 100 minutes? And obviously you're meant to go, well, it takes 100 obviously, but it's 5 because obviously it just sort of multiplies up. And then the next puzzle is blank is 1,000 times blank blank, and you have to use a letter that fills in all 3 gaps. And the answer is M because M is 1,000 mm, so a meter is 1,000 millimeters. So yeah, so some of the puzzles, like I said, are a bit... You have to think outside the box a bit. And then next up we have... It gives us a sequence, so it's OTTF blank SSENT. You have to work out what the blank is.
これでどうかな。
And each one is the beginning letter of a number. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, blank,
謎は解けるから
6,
謎
7,
なの。
8, 9, 10. Keep forgetting there's all these items. And then next up we have the 2 barbers. So there's 2 barbers. You have to choose which one you want to cut your hair. Obviously it's the one with a really messy haircut. Because you make the assumption that they cut each other's hair, which they probably don't. But you make the assumption anyway, because it's
謎は
a
解け
puzzle.
るから謎
It's
なの
meant to have an answer. Then next up we have the star finding puzzle. So there's a star hidden in this, and you have to try and find it. These puzzles tend to be okay in terms of registering.
さあ
I can't say words today, obviously. Registering if you've got the right area, but sometimes they just go slightly off and you miss the mark a bit. So luckily we only have 2 puzzles left here. So we have the fish thief. So you have to work out who's lying about eating the fish. And the answer is C is lying, but A also ate the fish.
先生
So like A says like, yeah, I ate the fish, it was me. But he's telling the truth, so sort of it's
僕
like
だ
a
って
trick.
先生の弟子ですからね
And then one more puzzle, you have to find the monster and you have to stab him in the eye. So we'll try and work out where the eye is. There we go. Yeah, so the monster's the night sky.
これでどうか
If
な
that makes sense. So yeah, so now that's
僕だって先生の弟
both
子で
trips,
すか
so
ら
we don't
ね
have to go back to Granny Riddleton's anymore. We get the rest of the puzzles along the way. Technically, there are more puzzles that go there, but it happens right at the end of the game, so it wastes tons of time to try and go back there again. So now we're gonna keep going forward here. I'm gonna try and do another puzzle. Because seeing a cat reminded one of them of the puzzle that they have to answer. So it's literally just sort of which side's heavier. You have to work it out using the bottom 2 scales.
先生
So now we can keep going on. And so now we get some really important story stuff. So everyone has to remember that. If we find out in a sec. Okay. Everyone has to remember that Chemley hates cakes. Like he's physically violent when you give him cakes, and it's very important for later on in the plot. So we just have to remember that for later, hopefully. But no, he's basically telling us that he's still doing an investigation, so we have to leave. So we're going to go and talk to Raymond and see if he can tell us about what happened last night. Well, obviously, he doesn't remember anything, so we're going to have to go and find out on our own. And so, sort of this next chapter is very lots and lots of story, lots and lots of finding out what's meant to be happening. So I'll try and explain as we go along to anyone who hasn't played the game before. I think you have to play these games casually because they are really, really good games. Obviously, speedrun wise, they're either like take them or leave them. But casually, they are great games. So now we're going to do a lot of talking to different people and finding out stuff. So we're going to talk to Matthew, who tells us that there was a nanny who used to work in the manor. So we're going to go and find the nanny, who luckily is very close by, so we don't have to go too far. There's the nanny. And her name is Ingrid. We have already seen her before, but we'll go and find her now. And luckily she is literally just here, so we can just talk to her there. And she tells us that there's a grave that we can go and visit, which is always a nice, happy thing to do. So we're gonna go and look at someone's grave. She does take forever to talk, though. There we go. So it's just sort of lots of text, lots of story, lots of mashing, lots of thumb hurting. Nothing too bad, but yeah. So here's the grave, and this is for the mum who is also inside the house. So obviously it's a grave for someone who's alive, technically. So maybe that'll make more sense later. But now we're going to go and read her diary because we can. There we go. So we're going to go and read some diaries. And no one will catch us, so it's fine. And this is basically... So this is the Baron's diary, if I remember correctly. So I think it's just talking about... So he's just talking about his different things that have happened in his life, and they're all related to the story. They become a lot more relevant later on when you find out what's actually happening in the village. But for now, it just sort of confuses you further. And now we're going to do another puzzle. So we have to work out who is selling oil. So who's like the head of the company selling oil. And so the trick to this one is you have to turn the note upside down and then look at it in a mirror. And it says, Shigeo is boss, he sells oil. I don't know how to pronounce it. Shigeo. I'm not great with pronouncing names, so I don't want to talk to him again. There we go. So yeah, it's just sort of trying to get through this as quickly as possible. So Ingrid's come back to tell us that she forgot to tell us something and that we should go and talk to Zapone again. Because apparently Zapone does know him, even though he told us that he doesn't. So we'll go and find him. And luckily he's in the same place as last time, so we can just sort of talk to him here. And then Zapone tells us that he doesn't know anything, but Gerard may know something, so we should talk to Gerard. So we're going to have to go and find Gerard now. Oh, if it will let me. There we go. So now we have to talk to Gerard twice, because he tells us something and then he has a puzzle for us as well that is quite quick. So just carry on mashing through text here, finding out some more story stuff. And we have a puzzle. I cannot remember what this puzzle is. Oh, it's how many... I think it's how many pentagons there are in the shape. You have to work out all the different shapes that are there, and you have to just sort of add up how many different ones add up to... Oh, that was a great sentence. Let me try that again. You have to work out how many pentagons there are, and you have to work out how many of each one there are. And so here, we can either go up or down, but if you go up, it's slightly faster, because the animation on the top screen goes quicker if you go up. So like I said, like really tiny time saves, but they all add up in the end. So now we've been told that we ordered a vase, which we didn't order. So obviously we're going to smash it because we want to. Now we have to fix a vase. Oh. There we go. So they give you like one extra piece which isn't part of the vase, but it's,
私の回答はこれ
once
だ
you put all the edges in, it's really obvious to see which pieces fit and which don't.
謎は解けるから謎なのさ
So now we fixed his vase for him, so we're done. We'll give him the other vase back. And then we'll find a piece of paper on the ground. And I'm not really sure why this just suddenly appears, but it's quite useful for the story, so I'm glad it does. But it's just basically tells us about Chemley's last investigation he solved, and it says that he likes to celebrate every single investigation by eating his wife's cakes. Which obviously, as you remember earlier, he hates cakes, so something's obviously going on. But we'll find out later on. So now we have another hidden puzzle, which is
先
there's
生
a giant cube and he paints all 6 sides of the cube, and you have to work out how many of the smaller cubes inside the big cube only have one side painted. It's really, these puzzles work really well when they're written down, but when you're trying to say them, they don't really come across as well. And so this is the 3rd check, so he checks that you have 50 puzzles before he'll talk to you. Luckily, we have way more than 50 right now, so he'll take us to his house. So this was the Baron's best friend, and he has the Baron's desk because the Baron left it to him when he died. So we're going to go snooping through his desk to find out some stuff. Another Japanese puzzle quickly.
これでどうかな
Quite impressed I haven't made any mistakes so far, like any puzzle mistakes. I made some movement mistakes and stuff, but no wrong answers yet. So now we're going to go into his desk. I'm just going to open a drawer, and for some reason he's never gone in this drawer before because there's like a hidden map in this drawer, and it's still there somehow. Such a good map as well. It's very, very helpful. But that's the end of that chapter. So now we have to find out what we're trying to do. So now we have to go back to the inn because the person in charge of the inn wanted to talk to us about something, so we're going to go and talk to her. By the way, I think her name's Beatrice, not Dorothy. I think it's Beatrice. I'm going by the English name, so I'm not really sure what they would be if they were translated. But no, now we find out that this room is filthy. So she had a hidden visitor that we don't know who it is, because we've never met them before, and she tells us that he just made a mess everywhere. So she wants us to try and find out who this person is, so hopefully we'll find out later on. Hopefully we'll be able to apprehend them and bring them to justice for messing up our hotel room. So now we're going to just keep moving forward. We're going to talk to Agnes on the way though, because she has a fairly quick puzzle. And so this is the broken window puzzle. So it's just one of them broke a window with a baseball and you have to work out which one it was.
私の回答はこれだ
And it says that one or more of them are lying, and it turns out that 2 of them are lying, so she punishes 2 of them rather than 1. Not really sure why the other one lied, but oh well. And now we're going to do another hidden puzzle, if it will let me. So this puzzle is... Oh, so it's, you have 3 different colours, you have to paint a cube,
これでどうかな
and none of the colours can be the same if they're touching, so how many different, like, patterns can you make with the colours? And the answer's 1, because they're all just inverted of each other. And now we finally get to see the main obstacle in the game, which is the giant wall. So this is basically just blocking us off from getting into the tower. And now we get another cutscene, where they just do lots of, it's a wall. I see a wall. Now we get introduced to the other main character in the game. We won't find out who this is until much later.
あなた
But
た
she's
ち
very
は
important to the plot, so you'll remember her.
君こそ誰なんだ
私たちはあの塔に行きたいんだ方法を知っているなら教えてくれないか
So have to sit through this cutscene. It's quite a lengthy cutscene.
それ
It's
は
not too bad, but it's relatively longer than some of the rest of them.
あ、君
Yeah, and now she's gone. We won't see her again for a while. But while she was running, she dropped a ticket to the fairground. So now we can go and investigate the fairground, I guess. So yeah, so we open up new areas as the game gets on. So there's only 2 more areas to open. Well, 3 technically, but one of them is quite small, so I don't really count it. But there's 2 sort of fairly decent-sized areas still left to open up. So now we're going to go and look at the fairground. But first of all, we're going to do some puzzles quickly, because these are really, really quick puzzles. And I cannot remember what this puzzle is at all. Oh, no, so it's how many tiles does he need to tile his house or his like kitchen or
こ
something?
れでどうかな
This is not.
当然さ
And then we're going to talk to Andrea as well. So all the different characters have a different characteristic, as I've been saying. So Paulie's very, very angry all the time. This character's always laughing for no reason. Gerard is always really confused. Dahlia is always just very, very moody. So they all have different characteristics that they don't really change their characteristics at
当
all.
然さ英国紳士としてはね
So that riddle was 2 salaries, and you have to work out which one's the better salary to have. And it's just to do with like the interest you get on salary per year. Now we're going to investigate the park, but unfortunately the park is locked, so we can't get in at the moment. So we have to go to the town hall to see if someone can unlock the park for us. So now we're going to go and talk to the mayor. So this is Rodney, he's the mayor. And he tells us that there's a caretaker in the town, but he's in the sewers, so we have to go and find him. So we're going to go and find him in a sec. We're going to do some more puzzles in here quickly, because there's 2 relatively quick puzzles in here. And then we'll go and find the caretaker to open the park for us. So this puzzle is how many squares can you make on the board? And the answer is 11.
ルーク私の
Because
回
there's
答は
like,
これだ
you can do the 5 normal squares and then you have some diagonal squares as well.
解けたよルーク
And lots of people miss some of the diagonal squares when they do it casually. And then there's also a puzzle on the window here as well. So we're going to do this puzzle too. So that puzzle is something to do with like,
さあ
if you add up, so it's like you have 1,000 red cards and 1,000 black cards, I think. And if you add up
僕だって先生
certain,
の弟子
it's
です
to
か
do
ら
with
ね
numbers and working out percentages. It's really, really straightforward, but I can't remember what it is for the life of me. So now we're going to talk to Percy. Percy has another quick puzzle. If we talked to Percy earlier, he has another puzzle before this one that we don't want to do because it's very, very slow. But if we wait till now, he only has this puzzle, so it just saves some time.
全ての謎は必ず解ける
This is another Japanese exclusive puzzle. So a lot of the puzzles which were to do with like text or to do with like reading long pieces of text were just sort of changed overseas. I think the Americans have a lot more of the Japanese puzzles than the Power Region. Power Region got a lot of the puzzles changed. And then this is Pavel, who basically says he doesn't know how he got here. He's lost. He got in the sewers somehow. He's visiting. And he's going to try and find his way out. So we'll see him again later. But he's meant to be like completely insane and crazy. But no, this is the caretaker. So he tells us that he can open the park, but he has to try and sort out something first. So it's not too hard. We obviously know all the answers, so
私の回答はこれだ
we just can tell him the answer. We can get into the park.
当然さ英国紳士としてはね
And luckily, he teleports us to the park entrance, so we don't have to move our way back there. Try and skip through all this text. So now the park's open. get a nice cutscene of it showing us the park. And I think there's only like a few puzzles left. The chapter after this chapter is lots and lots of story, so it's lots of text and explaining what the story is. But yeah, we only have 5 puzzles left until we get into the end of the game, so... So there are 2 ways you can move around this area. You can either go to the right and then up and round, or you can go up and then round again. And it just saves a screen if you go up instead of right. So it's quicker. Even though if you go right, you can like put 2 texts into one, but it still doesn't save time. Because you have to look at every single area of the maze, every single area of the park except for one to load the next trigger. We're going to do a hidden puzzle here first. This is just like a which dice can be made. Which dice isn't one of the other dices, I think. If I remember correctly, it's like 3 of them are from the same layout, one of them's not. Yeah. We keep going through here, it's just lots of... They look around the park and they do lots of... Wow, this Ferris wheel looks very nice. Wow, this area looks very beautiful. It's just lots of sort of filler text. And then this is the lake house, but the door's locked unfortunately, so we can't get in. Although we'd really like to, so hopefully we can find a key or something, or we can like maybe do something even crazier. Who knows? We'll find out. And so now we're gonna have another cutscene. And obviously, as it happens, the Ferris wheel is gonna just start chasing us. And somehow it can actually like follow us around corners and stuff as well. Like this. Make sense? Yeah, so we're gonna jump out of the way, so hopefully there we go. So we don't need a key, we'll just break it apart with the Ferris wheel. But yeah, so the Ferris wheel was being remote controlled somehow. Not really sure how that works, but apparently it does, so we'll just go with it for this story. So now we can go down into the secret area. So we have a couple of puzzles down here which aren't too difficult. We have another sliding puzzle, and then another like drawing a shape puzzle. So it's sort of, there's an arrow hidden in the picture, and you have to find it to tell you which way to go. It's fairly easy to find. Hopefully that wasn't too bad a shape. That should still work. Yeah, that's fine. So now we know to go left. So now we can carry on. But that'll give us also an item as well. So we got the teapot from that puzzle, and we'll get the teacup later on, but obviously neither of them are important at all, so it doesn't really matter. And here we have our second of 4 sliding puzzles. Hopefully I don't forget how to do these. So a lot of them are just pretty straightforward. The first 2 are quite easy, the second 2 are... well, the third one's okay, the fourth one's a bit harder. So now we can go into the secret room. There we go. So obviously someone's been living down here. Not sure who. I don't think it actually ever says who lives down here. It just sort of is meant to be like a hidden room. But luckily we'll find a key here, which has a tower on, so maybe that'll come in handy later. And this should be the end of chapter... I think we're on chapter 7. Should be the end of chapter 7. So now we're going to do another puzzle down here. And this puzzle is also different between regions, so I think it's the same in America but different in the PAL region, or it's one of the regions has a completely different puzzle.
全ての謎は必ず解ける
It's also different between the Japanese friendly and the other
当
Japanese
然さ
version as well.
英国紳士としてはね
So they just sort of change puzzles across a lot of the games. And there's our teacup. So now we only have to do one more puzzle before we can actually get into the final area. But we also have to advance the story. So we're going to do a puzzle here. And then that will be all the puzzles we do right until the end of the game. So this one is like a... You have to put numbers in to add up to the same numbers. You have to work out which number, what's the like highest number that can go in the middle, I think.
僕だって
I can't remember
先
what
生の弟子ですから
any
ね
of the puzzles are. Like I remember the gist of most of them, but I don't remember the actual like specific instructions. So now we're gonna head back into town. Now this is where all like our main story and sort of a lot of the revealing stuff happens. So now we're gonna head back to the inn. Gonna talk to Beatrice again. And now we're going to get summoned up to go back to the manor again. So we're going to go back and talk to Dahlia and all the other people. Also, I'm not sure what's happened with Ramona's lips at all. She's the only one who has like those sort of huge lips for no reason. I think a lot of the rest of the characters look fairly normal, but there's a few that just look incredibly strange for no reason. Yeah, so this is our mystery girl again. And hopefully we'll bump into her later. And now we're heading into sort of the final section of the game. So there's not too much left. So now Chemley's telling us that he's actually finished his investigation. So he's worked out who killed Simon. And he's basically saying that Simon was killed with this vase. And so he's accusing us. And he smashes the vase. That's how you do police work. And so we just stand there and go, well, actually, it wasn't us, but also we're going to accuse you of something as well. Because that's also how police investigations work. So we get another cutscene. Yeah, see, I think most of them look fairly normal, but if you see Ramon in the background here, he turns up in a sec.
まだわかりませんか
I think he looks quite strange
この事
compared to the
件に
others.
犯人がいるとすれば
Not him.
それはあなただ
So we're accusing him of doing some stuff. I think we accuse him of being a fake, like being an imposter. It's either that or we accuse him of killing Simon. I can't remember which one it is, but it's one or the other. Either way, we're accusing him of something. So now we're telling him that we know he's a fake because he said he doesn't like cakes, but yet this news article says he loves them. So that's basically what we base our entire evidence on. And then we also say something like, you love your wife Sally's cakes, and then he goes, my wife Sally makes the best cakes, I only like hers. And then we go, ha, but your wife's named Martha. Something like that. It's not too much investigating that goes on, it's just basically just sort of plucking things out of thin air and hoping you're right. But then he says, but you have the key. And we're like, well, we haven't shown anyone the key yet, so we know you've been following us. And now we'll find out who this really is. I'm sure everyone can guess because it's really, really obvious. Who would have guessed? Not sure how he fit that hair underneath the costume. Or like any of his other clothes underneath the costume, but let's just suspend belief for a sec here. Just assume that it works. So now he's jumped out the window, so now he's run away. And now he'll come back later on in the story, but we won't catch him unfortunately, so he can come back in some of the later games. Yeah, so we've solved one of our mysteries. And so now we're going to head to the final area, luckily. Not too much left. Just, like, there's 7 more puzzles. They're all fairly quick from here, though, and then there's just a load of story at the end. I'll try and explain it as best I can. We're going to head back to the wall. And luckily, we can use that map we had earlier with the X on, because the X tells us where there's a keyhole. And then we put the key into the keyhole and it opens up the wall. It all makes sense. There we go. And now we can actually get into the final area. And so this is the final chapter now. So that's the point where they send the last puzzles to Brandy Middleton, but obviously it's right at the end of the game, so you'd have to go all the way back and get them, so it just takes forever. So now that door checks that we have 75 puzzles before it lets us in, and luckily we have exactly 75. So now we're going to fall into the basement. And here's where we start to find out what's happening in this village. So obviously we fall through a ceiling onto the floor. We don't get hurt at all. We're absolutely fine. Well, Luke has like a scratch on his cheek, but other than that, they're both fine. It disappears, so it's fine. It's okay. And here's where we find out sort of the main reason everyone in the town is so weird. So we're going to try and leave. Oh no, it's the kidnapper. How will we ever get past him? It's fine, we're just going to talk to him and then he'll let us leave. No, so this is Bruno, I think his name is. And he basically, he is the only other person in the village who's a human. So the gist of it is that everyone else in the village is a robot, except for you. So the entire village is basically just loads of fake people, which is where the gears all come from. Because they're all robots, and none of them exist except for you, Luke, him, and the girl who's been following you around. Yeah, so now we ask him about the golden apple, and he says it's at the top of this tower. So now we have to go to the top of the tower to find the golden apple. But that solves. So now we're just gonna start like steaming through these mysteries here. So here we have our third sliding puzzle. It's not too bad. It's harder than the other two, but it's not anything too difficult. So now, basically what we do in the tower is we just keep working our way up. And eventually we'll get to the top of the tower, but every floor has a puzzle on it, and it blocks us off from entering the next floor. So we have to do all these puzzles as we head up. So we're going to keep going up now. And every floor they have like a conversation about another mystery, and it just gets solved. They don't do any investigating from now on, they just sort of talk about it. So now it's another magic square. Just have to make them all add up to 15. So now they're going to carry on talking about the different mysteries. they're just sort of solving with like the why everyone's so weird, why there was a grave, why who this is, who the visitor was to the hotel, all this different stuff. And now we're gonna meet Pavel again. And somehow he managed to get into the tower. It's meant to be really funny because it's like, ha ha ha, he's got lost. But no, he gives us a puzzle as well. For some reason we can't just walk around and we have to solve his puzzle. And so then this is another Japanese exclusive puzzle. I don't know if it's in the American version, it's not in the PAL version. Luckily it's fairly quick, so it doesn't lose any time compared to other versions. But what I probably should also say is that if you did want to run this game, you can run it on any version really. You wouldn't lose too much time unless you ran it on PAL, because PAL loads slower, so you lose about 5.5 minutes running it on PAL just from loads, which is always great. And here we have the final sliding puzzle. Hopefully I don't forget what I'm doing. Just concentrate for a sec. That's not right. There we go. So you should be able to do that in 40 steps. Took 44 because I messed up a bit, but doesn't lose too much time. So now they're just going to carry on explaining stuff. It's not too interesting. They just sort of talk about all the different mysteries, which we've obviously already worked out as we've gone along in the game. So they've worked out how Simon got killed, why the drawbridge was up, all this different stuff. So we only have 3 puzzles left, I think. So we're very near the end now. So I just have to arrange these in the right order. So it does things like the Joker is 2 away from the heart, not the heart, the club. But the club is 3 away from the diamond and it's stuff like that. So you just have to work out where they're all meant to go. So now we can carry on. So next we have a maths puzzle. So you have to work out, you have to use all 9 numbers to make an equation that works out to be, just going to concentrate quickly. Should be right. You have to basically have to work out an equation that works out to be 33,333. It's not too hard once you sort of work out what some of the numbers have to be. Because like the first number in the top one has to be 4. So it's like, once you sort of get rid of numbers, it's easier. Now we're finding out about why he wrote stuff in his diary. Because he writes something like, I brought my new wife home and my daughter was scared. It's because his new wife was a robot who looked exactly like his old wife. Which isn't creepy at all. But obviously the daughter was scared because her mum came back to life after dying. It doesn't normally happen. And here we have the final puzzle. This is like after this everything's pretty much the same time, so it should be okay. So this is just, you have to make squares. Sometimes it can be a bit finicky with when it decides it wants to make a square. There we go. And that's the final puzzle. So you've only got to do 82 puzzles out of 120 in the whole game. So there's not a lot of puzzles that are very, very long and we just don't do because they take forever. There's a lot of quick puzzles we don't do because they take tons of dialogue to get into, so they take longer. But now we can head to the final area of the game. So we're going to go to the top of the tower. And we'll find out what's up here. Must be something good. It's a little house. So obviously we're just gonna walk into the house because we don't really need to knock or anything. We can just walk straight in because I assume no one lives here. Now I just have to be really careful here because if you select the bottom option there, you get sent back to the bottom of the tower, which obviously you don't want to do because you have to climb all the way back up again. Luckily, you don't have to do the puzzles again, but you have to walk all the way back up, which takes ages. And so now we just have cutscenes and text.
君は
So I'm just going to carry on talking through these, just trying to explain the end of the story. So basically, here's our mystery girl. She lives at the top of the tower. And surprise, surprise, it's the daughter of the Baron. And nobody could have ever guessed that. It's so just sort of out there and strange that
ど
it's
ういう
just
ことですか
never would have been able to be guessed.
Luke.
Obviously, except for Professor Layton, who does like a I knew you were here. Her. Because obviously Professor Layton has to be really smug in every situation. But now we just sort of go through the rest of the game and just sort of find out different stuff. So we can't really rescue her at the moment because we're currently being attacked by Mr. Evil Guy, who I do not know the name of. It's like one of the only characters I don't know the name of. You get some nice close-ups of his face. He's basically trying to kill Professor Layton. For some reason. Because Professor Layton revealed that he was hiding, so obviously he deserves to die. So we're gonna have to try and escape now. Hopefully we can get out in time. Luckily I don't have to do anything to get us out in time, I just have to mash the A button and the start and the touchscreen. And then we go straight into another cutscene. Yeah, the end of the game is very cutscene heavy. Have lots of them showing us. So Luke manages to get across, so Luke can escape, but we're now stuck. So we're gonna head back up again. They do a nice run. There we go. Off they go. And we do like 2 text boxes. Sorry, it was 3 text boxes. And then we get another cutscene. At the end of this game, they just sort of went, well, we need you to feel like you're doing something. So between every cutscene is like 1 or 2 text boxes. But unfortunately, we end timing on the last input, so which is sort of a bit further on from this. So we have to sort of sit through these. But now Professor Layton's gonna find a way to escape. Because as well as being a master problem solver, he can also build makeshift kites. You can also steer it really well, even though it's entirely wind powered. And off he goes for the next game. We won't see him again. I think we see him in the credits, but we won't be watching the credits because obviously we have a marathon to keep to. As much as I'd like to watch the credits because it has a great song. So now this cutscene ends. And you think, oh great, we get to do stuff now. But no, just loads another cutscene. Let's get to sit through the next cutscene. So yeah, a lot of the end of this game is just sort of sitting through stuff and watching. So now we'll find out. Now we'll try and work out the mystery of the golden apple. She's so happy to have been saved. Obviously, Professor Layton is going to have a nice look down. What is an apple? Maybe that might be the golden apple. So now we get to actually do some stuff now. Now they're explaining what the earthquakes and stuff have been. This is like literally just like the last few seconds of the game. They're just trying to cram in as much story as they can. But now we get to find out where the treasure is. So all we have to do here is just touch on her neck where the apple was. And that's pretty much the last major input of the game. The rest is just text mashing. So now we're just going to find out what that's been hiding. Ooh, secret passageway, let's go. And so we found the treasure. And there's lots and lots and lots, and we want all of it, obviously, because it'd be great. And now we get a, like a recorded voiceover from the Baron, who basically tells us to look after his daughter. But he also says that once we remove all the gold in the room, then the village will cease to exist. So basically, once we take all the gold away and leave, everyone in the village will stop working. So it's whether we want to have loads of money, or whether we want to let these robots keep being robots. And obviously we choose to let the robots live. Yeah, stop. I think you should be able to choose.
Could have donated all that money to charity.
We'll go to save the animals.
Sure.
So time's coming up pretty soon. It's like 2 text boxes and then time, so I'll call it out in a sec. Time. Yeah, we just end timing now on the last text box, because after that it's just tons of cutscenes. And it just basically explains that everyone comes to say goodbye, we left the gold in the village, they all get to live. Everyone lives happily ever after. Layton goes on to appear in 20 million other games. Does loads of puzzles. Yeah, it's a happy ending for everyone. Woo. But yeah, that's Professor Layton. I think it's a good run. It's not everyone's cup of tea, so to speak. But, I mean, if you're interested in running Layton, we do have a Discord. We have lots of routes and stuff on speedrun.com, so you go and check it out. And I think I'm done. I'm not sure what runs next.